So let us make this one real short. I want to go ahead and introduce just a couple more commands or tools. One that you very rarely use, one that you will use a little bit more than the other. Okay. On the top right here on the draw tab, you have a drop down under draw. It's probably misleading, or at least it can not really pop out to you. I've only used a couple of these. I've only ever really had need for a couple of these, but one is right here called Spline Fit. It's in the top left, and it looks like a squiggly with some dots on it. Okay. The place I've done this or I used it is just a couple, and it's really with freeform work. It's not with technical drawing. Landscape design, I've used it to come up with the shape of planting beds and things like that, and then some graphic design applications as well. So the way this works, it's sort of like using a line, and it's going to keep on moving with you, but it requires clicks. So you click, just like the command window says down here, specify first point. And this looks just like line. It says specify next point, okay? So I can click, like let's say here in a straight line, but now when I'm specifying my next point, you can see it's going to start bending, okay? And sometimes you do, for this tool, you want to have polar turned off on your settings, right? Like right here, you might want to just go ahead and turn it off, so that it's not trying to, and even turning off object snaps sometimes so that it's not trying to grab onto things. But let's say you're trying to design a fish pond for somebody, and they want it to be some kind of, I don't know, irregular shape or whatever, okay? And you're designing this in their landscape for them, and you come up with the idea, and you look and you say, what do you think about this, okay? Well, now you can sit there with the customer or the client, and you can have them help inform you on different ways that they would want to modify that shape. Like, for instance, they say, well, we would like this curve to come in a little bit more and get a little bit deeper, but we want to smooth it out and make like more of a transition right here. And, okay, this part looks a little bit lumpy. We might want to move this. This is too much of a straight line, so we want to move that down. So that's the basics of Spline. Again, just to see where I did it, I hit the draw button, the drop down, I click Spline Fit, and I can just, like I said, go ahead and manufacture just about anything I want to. Students a lot of times have used this as a real cheater in doing logos and stuff like that. And even in 3D work, I think a lot of people tend to look at this and think it's a magic bullet, but it's a tool that you just don't use very often. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about arrays, and I'll try to keep this short because I'm going to give you an application-based reason to use an array here shortly. But let's just say, for instance, that I am drawing circles, okay, and I want to make a pattern. So I'm just going to make a circle. I'll click right here for my center point, and I'll say I want it to be a diameter of 0.5. So I have a half-inch circle. Now, let's say I wanted to have a whole grouping of half-inch circles, okay? So I could go ahead and copy this, and I could just go over here. Let's say I want 2 inches of space between them. So I can type that in. I just typed in 2. I kept going in the same direction. I typed in 4. I'm going to type in 6, right? I can come down here and type in 2. And now I kind of get to the end of the road. I could actually just go ahead and copy these, right? Copy them and grab this and come down and say 2. So it took me like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 commands to be able to make that all happen. Okay. Well, check this out. I have a tool right here in the Modify tab, and it looks like 4 windows. So I click these 4 windows, this one right here, and I'm going to show you each one of these. But this one I use second to least, but it's the one that pops up. So you have rectangular, path, and polar, okay? So rectangular, I click it, and it just says to select the object. So I select the object, and I need to get, anytime you need to get to the next step, right click, okay? And right now, it predetermined for me, it made a pattern. It's a beautiful equal pattern, and it says it's 4 columns and 3 rows. So now I can actually modify this, and I can say, okay, I want this to be 5 rows. So I type in 5 and I hit enter, and it takes a minute to process sometimes. And let's say instead of 4 columns, I want 2 columns. Okay. Or let's say I wanted to make it completely 5 by 5. Okay. Now you can see there's some other functionality here too, where it says between. Okay. So in this case, if I want to go between those, it says 0.75 inches. I can type in 2. And now it spreads them out. And I can do the same thing here at between. I can type in 2. And you can see I come away with the exact same thing that I had when I was doing the individual copies. Now, here's the thing to notice, okay? When I click this, it regards it as one object. And there is a way to get around it that I don't even want to touch on right now. But if you find yourself using this tool quite a bit, then I can pop out another video or help you guys one-on-one. If it's something that you do want to break apart without knowing that process, you can just click explode, click any part of the array, and now anything I click, it will wipe out, okay? So that is the array tool, and this is bothering me because it's all outside of my my windows here, okay? So anyhow, you know what I'm going to do is just undo that back to the point that my array was much smaller, okay? So again, real quick, grab that, go ahead and click array, and there you go, okay? And I'm just going to move it into the center. Second type of array is, I'll just go down, and this is the one I use least. This is called the path array. So this requires us to have an object and a route. So in this case, I hit the draw button, and this, I'm going to use a spline since you just learned it, and I'm going to click this, okay? And this is a very rudimentary example, but let's just say this is a pathway. You're making a little stone pathway, okay? And you're using those little round paver stones like you can buy at Menards or wherever, okay? So you can click one stone, put it on the end of the pathway. This could be going around your house over to the little pond that we just talked about. In this case, I hit the drop down. I go to path array, and it wants to know 2 things this time. It wants to know what's the object I'm arraying. Array is just means, in this case, copy. So I click the circle, I right click, and then it says select the path or curve. I want to put those stepping stones all the way down this path, okay? It's predetermined again that the distance between these is whatever it says. I could change that distance and reduce the number of stones, okay? So that is the path array. And again, I very, very seldom use that. When you get into architecture, I might show you a trick that I use. And again, this is just like with rectangle and polygon. It always defaults back to the last one you used, okay? Last one I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a circle, just like I've been using for an example. And you know what I might do? Well, forget it. I'm just going to draw a circle, and we'll start with that. This is the one that I find to be the most beneficial a lot of times. This is called polar array. So I click polar array. It asks me, what do I want to array? Just like it did before, select the object, right click, and now I got to think about a pattern revolving around a center point. So I could click right here, and it just predetermined that I want 6 objects. And that's great, okay? Rows we're going to disregard in this case. The fill-in, I could actually change the angle in this to like 270 degrees. And you can see now it's made it in a regular pattern, okay? So it's going 3/4 of the way around the circle, okay? 360 is the one that you would typically stick with. 180 is also kind of typical. And it's still making 6 objects, okay? So what if I don't want 6 objects? What if I wanted, I'll go back to 360, what if I only wanted the bottom 4 of these objects? I just change that to 4, okay? What if I wanted 4 around 180? There we go, all right? So that is array. On the next video, I'm going to come back and I'm going to use that for an application-based purpose, or 2 videos from now. So the next one I'm going to do is a quick demo on drawing your first 2 symbols, being Nike and Under Armour.